COVID-19 has not only rearranged the academic calendar but highlighted the inequality gap in our education system. To educate more teachers from communities outside the main metros of South Africa, STADIO Faculty of Education is working with 3 institutions across the country. These are the Hermanus Varsity Trust, located in the Overstraat coastal region of the Western Cape, the Nation, and a non-government organization addressing inequality in the education system. Namibia Multiversity is a new tertiary institution in Windhoek, Namibia. We talk to Dean STADIO Faculty of Education, Professor Patrick Bean. Professor, a very good afternoon. A pleasure to have you on the program.
Good afternoon, Nathaniel. Really nice to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Of course, COVID-19 has brought with it its own unique set of challenges. Why do you feel there's a need to place emphasis on community-driven teacher training programs?
I think it's actually a very interesting spotlight that the virus has put on our communities when schooling was really made dependent on the parents. So the parents really started getting very close to the teaching profession, and I think a lot of new insights came because of this into the communities. So we've always believed that teacher education, especially initial teacher education, is not something that you can buy off the shelf. And our distance learning model for teacher education, we've got 2,500 students on that model and another 2,000 on our metro campuses on contact learning. But our 2,500 distance learning teacher students, they are linked to learning centers. So we have established about 14 learning centers across South Africa where the student teachers can go. But what we've done lately, and we started basically with an agreement with DOE in 2018, and then also with another organization called Development Institute for the Deaf and the Blind, that we realized that if we work closer with the communities where the teachers come from and where the teachers need to go back to, there's a lot of advantages on both sides. So the latest development are those 3 organizations that you've mentioned, and then we're busy talking to the Church of the Nations, which is a very large group of churches, and they're called Kingdom Valley, and we're also talking to them. So that would be a 4th one. So what happens is that we take our model, and it happens that on Saturdays there are lectures on our campuses, and these lectures are then broadcasted to learning centers. Obviously, we have many of our students that come to the campuses on a Saturday, and they participate in the lectures. But these lectures are broadcast live to our learning centers where the students from the rural areas and areas outside the metro can attend. But at the same time, obviously, with modern technology, a student can also attend the lecture through a webinar at home or a place where there's good Wi-Fi. And then ultimately, even if the person misses it, that a Saturday there may be a function, a wedding or a funeral or a family event that they cannot attend live, or they cannot go on their laptops and participate, then they can watch it on YouTube immediately after the lecture. So by pulling in our communities, we now have the communities at the learning centers, and we use the communities base for our learning centers. So, for example, we use in Hermanus, we use their learning hub, which is in the middle of Hermanus, where our students can then come. But then we also have tutors from the community that participate in supporting these student teachers. And that is the big advantage that we see, that if we can get tutors from the community, qualified teachers, experienced teachers, retired school principals who can help and participate in the community with the student teachers, then these student teachers don't have to move to metro areas. And while they're studying, they have this agency that they can choose. I want to go to a learning center this Saturday, or I want to watch at home because my child's sick, or I want to do it on Monday afternoon when I have time and I'm going to watch it on YouTube. So that's the model that we've developed to give our student teachers as much choices as possible.
Now, Prof, in partnering with these organizations, STADIO Faculty of Education will be providing a platform so teachers can upskill themselves in the education sphere, and this will be done via distance learning. What would you say is the value of distance learning for many students? I mean, we've seen how this has worked for institutions like UNISA.
Yes, absolutely. I think, again, you know, the pandemic has really spotlighted the advantages that we have with technology. And what it does is it, first of all, allows someone to have a life. We all know that, you know, to study these days is quite expensive. And a lot of our students need to work, and so you can work and study. I think that's the one big advantage. The second one is that you can still play your family role, your community role. You don't have to leave the community. You can get your qualification whilst you're performing your family role or your community role. And at the moment, this is definitely a cheaper option than a contact learning option. So a lot of our students, obviously, also I would say that would be also one of the reasons that it is cheaper than contact learning.
But we know that not everything runs smoothly with technology. Will there be any context support for students taking part in this program?
Yes, absolutely. So that fourth element of our model, where one can, after the live event, you can then download the video from YouTube, and you can watch the YouTube video. And then, because of exactly this, we have our tutors at our learning centers. So on a Saturday morning, whoever of our students attend at the learning center, there are facilitators that would help them with that. Obviously, with the advantage of all of this being recorded, and we design our delivery of our curriculum in learning events. So every learning event is about a week long. So it is very easy to catch up if you've missed one of these learning events. Obviously, they have a couple of learning activities in it, but you're not lost if you miss one of these sessions. You can catch up.
Let's now zoom back into your own program. I mean, due to COVID-19, the world has seen an even greater demand for online and remote learning. How has your organization adapted to this in terms of an online learning model?
Yeah, luckily for us, we were really quite lucky that in 2018 we started with a digitalization project. So by the middle of 2019, we started rolling out what we call our flexible hybrid learning environment model. So we started in 2019. So when the pandemic hit, our program actually continued as normal, other than our contact learning students then had to go on to an alternative mode. But our distance learning students basically continued as the model was originally designed. I think one of the critical things is that we make bring your own device compulsory. So we warn our students in advance that to study with us, you must have access to Wi-Fi, and that we provide at the learning centers, obviously for free. And that's the advantage of having a learning center. As I said, we've got 16 of them across the country, and we definitely want to establish more as we develop more alliances with more community partners. And with free Wi-Fi at the learning centers and then your own device, students really were not disadvantaged, especially our distance learning students, were not disadvantaged by the pandemic.
But would you say you were prepared for distance learning, especially when considering issues around Wi-Fi?
Yes, we've always had the model, so we didn't switch to online learning because of COVID. We've always been doing it. So I think in that way we were really in a good position. And obviously we gave our contact learning students, we gave them free data, and we also allowed our distance learning students to purchase data at a very, very discounted price. Because they could go to the learning centers as well, but they could also purchase very cheap data that we arrange with these cellular companies.
Well, Prof, thank you very much for your time. That's Professor Patrick Bean speaking to us there about community-based education during COVID-19.